learn more. So thank you so much. All right, we got two more to go. Hey, John, are you ready?
I am. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
Good. All right, we have John from Prophix up next. So welcome, John, to Sage Demo Day.
Thanks a lot. Excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and steal the controls here from you.
Sure.
And if you could let me know when you see your screen change, that would be great. There we go. Everything good on your end? Did it change?
It's right now it's a black screen. Oh, here we go.
But
Now we see it.
there we go. Perfect. We have four slides on my end, and then we're going to jump directly into it. Just a little bit about Prophix before we dive into a demo. Prophix has been around for a long time. We're actually established in 1987. We're headquartered out of Toronto, Canada. We do have offices globally. In addition to that, we work with an exclusive partner network as well that has really helped us amass over 3,000 customers in over 100 different countries. One thing that I would say that really sets Prophix apart from other solutions really pertains to our seamless integration capability into the Sage suite of products. But in addition to that, we can integrate to other source solutions as well, such as your CRM system, payroll system. We can even pull in data from large flat files as well. Another thing that really sets Prophix apart really pertains to our customer approach. We really like to take the white glove approach throughout the entire evaluation. So we like to get deep into the pain points that our prospects and customers have. We have a lot of conversations around that to learn as much as we can. We carry that information through into the demo, and then after that, through the implementation and post go live as well. In addition to that, from an industry analyst standpoint, Prophix is highly regarded as the top solution in the mid-market. As you can see, there's a number of different badges on the bottom of this slide, and those are just a couple of the different industry analysts that we work with. So BPM Partners, G2 Crowd, Trust Radius, Dresner. For anybody who wants to go ahead and take a look at those websites, you can actually get candid feedback on our product. And then ease of use, Prophix has really been a solution that has been designed by finance for finance. So everything that you would do within the product from the end user standpoint is really done all by drag and drop and point click functionality. Just a little bit the product itself. So Prophix is a platform rather than a point solution. And what that really means is that we have several different applications really geared towards driving efficiencies within the office of the CFO. As you can see, I've broken them out into really two core sections. One's the financial consolidation and close component, where we have our account reconciliation application. We have intercompany management, along with our robust financial console tool as well. In addition to that, native to the product for the longest time is really the FP&A components, including reporting and analytics, budgeting and planning, along with integrated planning as well. I would say one of the real things that sets Prophix apart, once again, being a platform solution, really pertains to the end user experience. So Prophix, from a standpoint, has its own built-in portal where you can actually go ahead and log in, seamless logins, and then you can actually have access to all of the various applications that your organization will utilize. In addition to that, from an integration standpoint, what's really, really nice is that it's one integration to go ahead and pull that information for whatever your specific use is, whether it be account reconciliation or FP&A or reporting. Security blankets the entire product as well, which is nice in the sense that you could go ahead and create standardized dashboards, standardized templates, standardized reports, and you can actually go ahead and roll those out to all your key stakeholders, and based on their security permissions will determine exactly what information they have the ability to view. And then lastly, we try to automate as much as possible and streamline and drive collaboration. We have an enhanced workflow functionality that can actually be responsible for sending out templates, reports. You could tie in overall approval components in there as well as part of the overall process. That's the bird's eye view of how everything comes together within Prophix. And it really starts off by having conversations with our prospects and customers around their source systems. So we would talk a little bit about Sage. As mentioned, Prophix is system agnostic, meaning we can actually pull in data from your CRM system, your payroll system, those large Excel files. What we would then do is pull that information into a model within Prophix, and your model would essentially contain your logic and your rollups as they would relate to your account structure, your org structure, along with all the various calculations that pertain to your P&L, balance sheet, cash flow. And then on the payroll side, all of your planning calculations as they would relate to earnings, benefits, and taxes. At the end of the day, what's nice about these models is that they can actually talk to each other and feed that summary level information between all of them. So once we have all that information within Prophix, you can actually go ahead and do all of your reporting. Those reports can actually be pushed out into a variety of formats, including Word, PowerPoint, PDF, Excel format. Prophix is web-based, so as long as you have an internet connection, you can actually go ahead and pull up Prophix on your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop. And then last point that I want to point out is that if you're taking a look at a particular balance, you can actually drill across to the underlying transactions. So if you're taking a look at a variance report and you notice a big variance, you can actually have Prophix surface the underlying transactions that make up that value. Okay. So with me one sec, I'm going to go ahead and change over my screen. Amy, once again, if you could let me know if you could see your screen change, that'd be great.
Yes.
All right. So as mentioned, I really want to give you sort of a high-level overview of Prophix and some of the core functionality within the tool. Prophix is a web-based tool, so in terms of gaining access, you could leverage any of your devices. You could also utilize any of your favorite web browsers, such as Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, all pretty common ones. We do support single sign-on. So if your organization leverages SSO, you could actually pass through your login credentials. Alternatively, you could actually access Prophix via username and password as well. Now, as a user, when you log in, the very first thing that you'd be presented with is your own dashboard. So Prophix has the beauty of being able to harness all that information from those separate systems, pull it into one central location, and then you could surface it in a number of different ways. So here's just one example of a dashboard that I've put together. Here's another one that's really non-for-profit related. Once again, tracking specific KPIs and metrics that are really relevant to individuals or stakeholders within the organization. What's nice is that the dashboards are fully interactive. So for example, let's say you're taking a look at revenue or tracking specific KPIs and metrics. Maybe you're taking a look at, expenses by your different departments. You could start from that high level and drill down into the teams or departments that are all part of that hierarchy. In this case, we could see a majority of our pressures coming from our design team. What's really neat, as a user, you can actually right click, select the little link, and Prophix will surface any type of report that sits behind that visual. Now, in terms of look and feel, where Prophix is a little bit different than other solutions that are out there is that we don't shoehorn anybody into a specific template or anything like that. We do provide a what we call template studio, which is basically a replica of Excel in order to go ahead and create your reports or templates. So in terms of look and feel, they're totally up to the organization. You'll notice that you can include charts, graphs, logos, colors. Reports can include a section for commentary. You can even utilize conditional formatting to highlight exceptions as well. Now, when you format a report, the beauty is that they become dynamic. So by creating that format, it can be leveraged across the entire organization. You'll notice that I have these drop downs on the left-hand side, which I can actually utilize as pick lists. So I could come in, make a selection, and as I go ahead and do so, Prophix is going to go ahead and render the data that's associated with it. Okay. So one template that can be leveraged across the entire organization. Keep in mind, security blankets this aspect of the product, which means you could go ahead and create a couple different statements, a couple different reports, and push them out to all those key stakeholders, and they'll only be able to see the information that their security permissions allows them to do so. Now, a couple of things to highlight here. If you want to further analyze your data, what's really, really nice and super powerful is a user can actually right-click, select, analyze, and Prophix will go ahead and bring you into what we call ad hoc analysis here. The best way to describe ad hoc is that it's similar to that of a pivot table. However, you don't have to worry about extracting data sets, dropping them into an Excel file, and creating pivot tables or anything like that. In our example, if we want to drill down into our travel costs, you could simply hit the little plus icon, and this is where Prophix will go down and drill down into your hierarchies. Okay, so one thing to point out here, everything within the pages section can actually be dropped into the canvas. So for example, if we want to track, our travel costs by our different departments, I could come over here to the left-hand side, grab our departments, drop it into the canvas. Prophix will swap the two out. Let's say we want to take a look at actuals where we're breaking it down by months. Once again, we could grab months, throw it into our columns. And once again, Prophix will go ahead and pivot on those two. This really speaks to the idea of centralizing all your data within one central location. And it also speaks to the idea of that central source of truth as well. So any of the users that are in the Prophix system are always looking at the exact same level of information. Now we would go ahead and actually schedule the cadence of that refresh. So for some customers, it's overnight. Others, it's a couple times throughout the day. But once again, everybody's looking at the exact same information. And then you could always toggle back if you choose to. There's options to go ahead and place conditional formatting. And then really the last point that I want to make here on ad hoc is that if you want to go ahead and take a look at the underlying transactions, you could simply hit drill across and Prophix will go ahead and surface each and every transaction that makes up that particular balance. So really at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is provide end users with that structured approach to being able to really analyze their own data. If they would log in, they would have their own dashboard set up. They could drill up, drill down. You could have templates that are linked off of those particular visuals. And if they need to get to the underlying transactions, they're a single click away. Switching gears here a little bit, let's jump into the planning component. So before we go ahead and open up an example of a template, I do want to introduce the idea of workflow functionality. A lot of our customers leverage it for driving collaboration and accountability to specific owners. They could be cost center owners, budget owners, or stakeholders that participate in the annual budget process or month-end close, or even a forecast as well. What they would do is simply click on a task that has been assigned to them, and Prophix will automatically go ahead and open up that template to provide input. From an input standpoint, very straightforward. Users could come in, enter in values into the template. They could adjust data in bulk as well if they choose to. There's nice features to actually go ahead and make this a lot easier rather than having to input calculations and formulas. In addition to that, they could even do top level spreads. Let's say they want to go ahead and enter in one value for the entire year. They could come in, enter in that value into that annual column, and Prophix is actually smart enough to realize that they've entered in one value for the entire year. And I'll ask them how they want to go ahead and push it down to the monthly level. So they could go ahead and select from the defaults, or they can even come in and create their own on the fly here as well. So this is something that I want to point out. This is nothing that needs to be programmed or coded. At the end of the day, what we're doing is actually taking a look at the underpinning data that resides within their own specific models. And that provides this inherent capability to to allow them to basically create their own spread method on the fly here. This is a little bit different than other solutions that are on the market where they tend to offer the spreading capability. However, it's usually done through links and formulas and calculations that are hidden within tabs and rows within the actual template. So in this case, users can come in, select from one of the defaults, and so I go ahead and update those values accordingly. Now, making our way up the template, for those accounts where you may want your end users to provide additional details, what's nice, if we turn attention to the advertising count, those little blue triangles, users could come in, hit OK. Prophix will pull up this separate schedule where you could force them to provide you with a description, justification. There's even a section for additional commentary as well. So you can make this mandatory for someone else. It's really totally up to you in terms of where you'd want to turn it on and off. But it allows you to go sort of below that account level or GL line. Now, coming all the way up to the top, you'll notice the payroll section is actually blank. What we're going to go ahead and do now is jump back out to my tasks. And here's an example of a payroll or personnel planning task that I've assigned to myself for demo purposes here. But this is where we can actually leverage off of all your data that might reside within your payroll or HR system. So if your organization's on ADP, Paylocity, AltiPro, we actually have the ability to harness all that information into a personnel model within Prophix here. So we could go ahead and create a schedule similar to the one that I have here, where we have the name of the individual, their ID, their hire date, end date, the entity that they roll up to, the department, and then we get into all their payroll-related attributes as well. So essentially, all those different attributes would drive your calculations as they would relate to things such as earnings, benefits, taxes, increases. And really the concept here is that you would have one area where you can come in, you can add people, you can remove people, you could update any of their payroll-related details. This could all be tied into the workflow. So for example, let's say, Amy, I'm responsible for the first pass of it. I could then go ahead and submit it. You as the approver would receive an email with a link to this template. You could either approve it, reject it. We can even have back and forth commentary that goes between the two of us here. Okay. And now once we're satisfied with it, we simply hit the little update button and Prophix will go ahead now and feed this information at the summary level back into our main financial model. So if we come back out, we could come back out to our OpEx template here, simply hit the little refresh, and in just a second, you're going to notice that the values will now sit in their respective GL accounts. And then Prophix is constantly summarizing and aggregating your data, so there's no manual linking of spreadsheets or workbooks together. If I go ahead and select our total operations group here, it's going to go ahead and roll up the values from our engineering, manufacturing, and design team into that one nice consolidated view. Okay. Also, one thing to highlight with Prophix is that we know it's never one and done. You could actually go ahead and create and store as many different versions. You could play around with different assumptions as well. And then lastly, with the last 2 minutes that I have here, let's talk a little bit about forecasting. So forecast now within Prophix is essentially another version where what we're doing is we're pulling in the data from Sage and combining that with budget details. So in my example in this template, you notice that our actuals are locked down. You never want people to change your or make edits to your actuals, but where they would be able to is where I've shaded the cells in blue. Keep in mind, the look and feel of your reports is totally up to you. But users could come in, they could enter in new values if they choose to. They could adjust the data in bulk, or they can even do those top level spreads as well. So very, very same input functionality as I just mentioned in our budget template. Same thing, everything aggregates automatically. And then within Prophix here, once again, you could actually go ahead and create new scenarios on the fly. So if you want to go ahead and create a version 2, version 3, you can actually run a what if process in Prophix, and that would look something like what I have here. And really, at the end of the day, you're just telling Prophix what you want to go ahead and. I'm saying let's take our original forecast version. Let's go ahead and create version 2. And in this example, let's go ahead and increase OPEX by 3%. Version 3, we did the exact same thing. And all that we changed was that we're going to go ahead and model out our worst case where we're actually decreasing it by 5%. So while we were chatting, I ran it. If we close back out, I could go ahead and as you can see just on the fly, it was that easy to go ahead and create an all new scenario where we could play around with different assumptions. And best part yet, if you ever want to analyze your data, you can actually right click, you could jump back into ad hoc, and this is where you can actually stack all of those different versions side by side. And if you want to go ahead and pull in your budget scenario, you have access to all of your different versions as well. So you could do something like this. Let's bring in scenario A. And I believe that brings me right up to the 15 minutes that were allotted. And then last thing that I want to share for anything related to Prophix in terms of the latest and greatest, there is a QR code that you could actually go ahead and scan, and it'll actually bring you to our website where you could actually learn a little bit more about Prophix.
Thanks so much, John.
My pleasure.
Yes,
Thanks,
so
Amy.
scan those QR codes if you need to before John wraps it up. And John, you can, if you want to send me the slide, I can certainly include it in the recording emails that I send out too.
Perfect. Amazing.
All
Thanks, Amy.
right. Yeah, you're welcome.